Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Komet and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason.
This is different, isn't it?
Yeah, this is we're actually recording this from the media room at McMahon Stadium. This is our first time recording an episode, I guess, on location
and physically together,
yeah.
Not virtually. So this is kind of fun. We just finished watching the Wild match. They were able to pull out the victory 3-2, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But if you are a new listener to our podcast, Scott, what is the YYC Soccer Podcast all about?
We talk about soccer in Calgary at the amateur, collegiate, and professional levels. We talk a lot about the city's two professional teams, those being Cavalry FC and the Calgary Wild. But we also talk about the semi-pro and pro-am leagues, League One Alberta, specifically the Calgary-based teams at this time of year. And in the fall, we talk a lot about post-secondary soccer.
And this week, we will talk about the Wild match that just occurred here against Halifax. We'll preview the Cavalry versus York match on Sunday afternoon at Spruce Meadows. And we'll talk about League One Alberta. And we'll have an interview this week. Who's our interview with, Scott?
I think this was the third time he's come on our podcast, maybe second. But Lee Tucker from Foothills Soccer Club, coaches for the League One Women's Foothills team, which is on a bit of a tear at the moment. They've reinforced their roster lately, and they're having a lot of success with those big names. We'll hear from him, kind of a mid-season update on how things are going with Foothills.
Mm-hmm. So let's get going. We'll start off with the Calgary Wild.
Hi, this is Tegan Stewart. You're listening to YYC Soccer Podcast.
So we're less than an hour out from final whistle. Calgary won this one 3-2. Very much a game of two halves. I know it's a cliche, but it really has to be said with this one. Calgary up 3-0 at halftime, and then almost allowing Halifax to claw their way back into it.
Yeah, that first half, like the last 15 minutes of that first half, it didn't even look like a game anymore. It just looked like a scrimmage out there, and they were just toying with the Tides. But then in the second half, I don't know what you thought, Scott, but it just seemed like maybe it was a little bit of just complacency there. And then it started to cost them goals by the last 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, definitely. I was on the opposite end of the pitch, so I didn't have a great view of Halifax's 2 goals, but they came within a 5-minute window around the 72nd and 77th minute, I want to say. Sarah LaMiller scored the first one, former Calgary Foothills player. Yeah, overall, I mean, at halftime, we were talking about how this game was pretty much over and they just had to see it out. And it's crazy how they kind of allowed Halifax back in. But what did you think of Halifax's resurgence in the second half? Because maybe you had a better view of it.
Well, it didn't seem to be really instantaneous. That I thought maybe the first 15 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes of the second half were, they weren't that interesting. It was just sort of it seemed like everyone was just playing, but not a lot of like momentum moving or anything. And then, Halifax got that first goal, and it was on a bit of a defensive breakdown. And then all of a sudden, it seemed to light a fire under them, and they scored again right away on another play where I think having some of the regular defensive presences probably were missed on that play, and then they pushed right at the end, and it could have easily been tied.
Yeah, there was a lot of fingernail biting on the part of Calgary fans. I think 7 minutes of extra time to see through. And I think the final whistle probably brought a lot of relief rather than joy, just with how the game ended. But you talk about how there were some changes in defense for the Wild tonight. Yeah, that was apparent from the kickoff. Michaela Moore, coming back from international break, wasn't quite ready to start or play. And Mika Rolfsema, she didn't play either, so must have picked up an injury. But we saw a very makeshift back four for Calgary with Sonia O'Neill partnering in center back with Tilly James, making her first start for the team.
And I did find out something, Scott. We were chatting about this earlier. Has Tilly James, does she play center back? And I actually got a message from Chris Corrigan, one of the top guys at TSS Rovers, and he said last year she played center back for them. So she has played the position before. She's not exactly a total newbie on it, but her primary position is as a fullback.
Right. And we also found out during the press conference, Sonia O'Neill, who is also not a naturalized center back, as far as I believe, she didn't know until probably 4 or 5 p.m. today that she was going to be playing that position. So very much some improvisation, I think, in terms of putting together the defense today. But based on the first half, I mean, things were looking really good for the Wild, and I think the second half definitely raised a lot of eyebrows. But overall, I mean, in the press conference, Lydia Bedford was definitely of the opinion that, look, 3 points is 3 points, and we got the job done today.
Mm-hmm. And 3 different goal scorers for the Wild today. It started relatively early in the match.
Yeah, very similar to the last time Calgary played Halifax, where they scored 3 goals in the opening half hour. First goal came, it was a super far out shot from Ali Green. I think it was like 30 yards out, sailed into the top corner.
About 25. I originally thought 30, but on the replay, it's good 25.
But she was on the left side of the pitch, and she put it far corner, so the ball traveled.
Yes, I would argue. I will give you that for sure. But if you look at the yard markers, that's the one thing about sharing the field with the Stampeders is the yard markers are very clearly marked, even though they've been washed off.
But a fantastic strike from her, picked the top corner perfectly. First goal for the Wild. And then not long after that, it was Janaea Robertson scoring her second of the season, second goal at McMahon. Another decent goal from her, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this goal, I want to give kudos to Grace Storty for a great run down the right wing. Really made this goal happen, got down into the box, and then passed it back. And yeah, Janaea was able to pick her corner to put the Wild up 2-0.
One thing I was going to add about that, because I don't know if you noticed this, but I noticed it only on the replay, that when Grace Doherty put the ball into the box, there was a slight deflection off the foot of one of the Halifax players, and that deflection made the ball go right to Janaea. Like, I don't know if that play would have happened if it wasn't for that slight misdirection, but it landed right at her feet, and she was good to go.
Took her chance. And then right before halftime, this is probably the best story of the day, by the way. We've kind of buried the lead with this one, but Tegan Stewart scoring her first professional goal the same day that she graduated from high school.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know, when you think about it. Both Keelan and Tegan were here for the press conference a few minutes ago, right where we're sitting, actually, and they were commenting about the day, and they said that a lot of their classmates are not even really fully aware of what they're doing, and they're actually playing pro soccer. But yeah, quite a day. First professional goal, graduate. And the other thing too, and they mentioned as well, it's the first time both of them went on the pitch at the same time. It was only for about 10 minutes maybe or so, but that's the first time they were on there together.
Yeah, we were talking about that, me and Aaron, as we were taking photos, joking about how, you're going to have a tough time with the photo captions. But yeah, no, that's really cool. It's kind of interesting how they haven't gotten to play together yet this deep into the season, but I think their minutes have been managed. They're a lot of times one of them is coming in off the bench, whereas the other one maybe has started but then came out. So yeah, very cool day for them, and I'm sure their schoolmates will definitely know a little bit more about what they've been doing when they go back to school tomorrow.
Definitely. A couple more things to mention about the Wild here, and about how Lydia Bedford kind of had to slap together a makeshift roster. We talk about players coming back from international break and being, not fit to play and that sort of thing. But not only that, the Wild are struggling with some injuries that are not international break related. Kaylee Books got injured in a friendly, and
Sarah Griffith has a concussion that she's still recovering from before the Vancouver game.
And then Mike Rosova got injured as well on the break. So yeah, there's some holes to fill right now. And I think that by the time next week comes around, some of the players will be sufficiently recovered. But yeah, it was definitely a makeshift lineup today. They even called in a couple of players on youth contracts, temporary youth contracts.
Yeah, that was something we noticed when we saw the bench, that Claire Monk was there, as was Soraya Bailey. They're both League One Alberta players. Claire Monk, I think most of our listeners will be familiar with. We've talked about her and her sister Izzy a lot, but she's a Kent State commit.
2026 Kent State, yeah.
Yeah, she's still only in grade 11. So another really cool story to see her make her professional debut probably 16, 17 years old, coming on for the last 7 or 8 minutes.
Mhm.
But obviously during a very tense moment of the match where, it's kind of one of those you can't screw up, right?
Yeah. There was pressure involved.
Yeah. Soraya didn't play, but she's been tearing it up in League One Alberta. She's a Louisiana State University commit. Lydia talked about how these are both players that the Wild coaches have had their eyes on for quite a while. And in the case of Claire, she's been training with the team pretty much once a week all season. And with school coming to an end soon, she said, basically hinted that she's here to stick around for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Shamit Shome. This is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
Let's move over and talk about Cavalry FC. They have a match coming up this weekend, Sunday afternoon, 4 p.m., Spruce Meadows. York United comes to town. Should be, it's always an entertaining match when these two play against each other. It's always a little chippy, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Last time it was really chippy, and that was the game, if you recall, out at York University where Sergio Camargo's post-game press conference, his post-game interview comments got him in a little bit of trouble when he criticized York United's theatrics and how referees in the CPL this season have kind of been tricked by that. But if you think about it, that was the game that really kickstarted Cavalry's good run of form. I think that was after that run of disappointing games at the beginning of the season. That 2-1 win over York is really what started their positive momentum that is still really going, right? I think they're 5 games unbeaten in the league, 7 overall now. And it all started with that win over York.
For sure. I think that was kind of the point where they really seemed to turn it around. So yeah, they'll be playing on Sunday. And as we've been talking about the Wild, Cavalry's going to have a bunch of lineup stuff happening in their match as well. Still some players out to injury and international commitments. We actually don't know the status of some of the injured players right now because the pregame press conference isn't until tomorrow, Friday, which will be after this is released. But there's still several players that are on the mend. And then, 3 players off on international duty, Shamit Shome and Kenija Elva and Mikhail Gerasimenkov.
Yeah, as we talked about in our last episode, Shamit Shome making his debut for Bangladesh. Kenija Elva, he's a regular for St. Lucia. And Mikhail Gerasimenkov playing for Moldova's U20s or U21s?
U21s, yeah.
So those 3 obviously unavailable. Jason, I know Shamit Shome has been basically a celebrity in Bangladesh lately. Really positive response from fans there. And he was recently profiled in Bangladesh's biggest English language newspaper. And he was interviewed and made some comments that you and I were talking about today at McMahon that maybe he might regret or want to take back a little bit.
Yeah, the line that it was actually the title of the article that he was interviewed in. It was, quote, "This kind of passionate fan base doesn't exist in Canada." That's probably not the ideal comment to make, but anyway, I think that he's definitely a big deal there. That he's getting a lot of attention.
Definitely. I mean, if you go to the comment section of any Cavalry related content online right now, you just have this flood of comments from people posting the Bangladesh flag or pointing out Shamit Shome and when he gets the ball in a highlight reel or something like that. It's pretty neat. And I think even when he showed up at you're showing me now a picture on your phone of him just with microphones in his face. It looks like he just arrived at the airport or something.
I think so. What are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mics, 6 mics. Yeah.
He kind of looks a little shell shocked in the photo, to be honest. Look at him.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, they're playing Singapore, and this is going to be his first time playing. So I think there's a lot of pressure on him, obviously. But I think Cavalry is going to miss him, to be honest. He's such a key part of their central midfield. So, and as mentioned, Elva Gerasimenkov also not available. Lots of people we believe are on the injured list: Tom Field, Eric Kobza, Diego Gutierrez, Michael Baldissimo still a few weeks away. So interesting to see how Cavalry lines up against a York team that I'm sure is going to want to get some vengeance against them.
We'll probably likely see Jesse Daly get the start this week in replace of Shamit Shome, but he should be ready to start a match. One more thing before we finish up with Cavalry. Did you notice that they signed another goalkeeper?
Yeah, they signed Dan Clark to a U Sports contract, which seemed out of nowhere.
Very random to me.
Yeah.
anyway, I know he sat on the bench last week, and I guess we'll have to see. I don't really have any insight as to the why, because Joe Holiday's been pretty capably backing up right now. So anyway, we're not aware of any specific injury or anything else, but yeah, anyway, that was a little bit of a surprise to me.
Is there not also Nevin Fuster, who's been playing for the U21s? I don't know if he got hurt maybe or something.
No, he played in the last game on Friday when the U21s played. He started. So that was after they signed him. So yeah, I don't know.
Kudos to you, Jason, for putting together a little bit of info about Dan Clark. We know he was drafted by Halifax in 2024. Didn't actually play for that team, but plays for Cape Breton, or played for Cape Breton, which is obviously a very strong U Sports program.
He played with Max Peepgrass, their teammates there. So yeah, and I believe in 2023 that they won the national title together. Mm-hmm. So yeah, good pedigree for sure.
This is Mila Schneider, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, let's talk about League One. There was a matchup on Tuesday evening between Rangers and Callies over at Weber Athletic Park. Positive results for Rangers, for both the men and the women. On the men's side, Rangers beat Callies 3-1. And on the women's side, Rangers beat Callies 3-0.
Yeah, so pretty solid performance for Rangers. And I want to mention, don't know really much about this player, but Ava Buke, who played for, got 2 goals for Rangers. So a player that, like I said, not familiar with, but she played for the high performance team last year, and she's going to Edge School. So she might be someone we should be watching for in the future, potentially.
Potentially, yeah. 2008 born, so still quite young. Must be in grade 11. Graduating from high school next year, attends the Edge School. But yeah, strong night for her. And on Friday, as always, we've got a slate of matches in League One. An exciting one, I think, worth mentioning is Foothills versus Blizzard at Macron.
That's a big rivalry there, and you can kind of expect always a good matchup between those two teams. And there's been some players that have crossed over to the other side of this year, so it's going to make it all the more interesting. And that's probably a good segue into our interview of the week this week. So as we mentioned earlier, we did an interview with Lee Tucker today.
Yeah, so let's run that now and hear Lee Tucker's thoughts on both Friday's match against Blizzard and the rest of the season.
I'd like to welcome Lee Tucker to the podcast. Lee is the Academy Director for Foothills, and he is also their Pro-Am program lead. Thanks for joining us again, Lee. I think you were with us last year, so welcome back.
Yeah, I was. Thank you, and thanks for having me again.
Okay, well, let's start by talking about the League One Alberta, the women's team that you're the head coach for. How's the season going so far? How would you rate your performances thus far?
I think we have to say it's been good so far to date. You know, we currently sit at the top of the table, and that was obviously one of the objectives from our point of view as we started this project this summer. I would say that I think our performances have got better and better week on week. And that could be a reflection of the roster in terms of how it changes and evolves as we move through the season. But certainly it's a great reflection of the quality of the program we have and the depth in terms of the player pool that we have.
The player pool this year really does seem to be pretty deep. You've managed to recruit. I think there's been a few players that you've brought into the program that, already had existing League One experience and stuff. You want to talk about the process of recruiting, what it's like? It's gotten very competitive for players right now in this league.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think once you get outside of the youth levels, you see that across the country. Not only are we competing with clubs within the province, and obviously there are more teams added this season as well, which makes it more challenging. We are competing with clubs across the country. I mean, ultimately, from our program point of view, we want to be number one. So that means that we have to go out and find players and bring in those players that can add quality to the program. They have to be competent enough to succeed here. They have to have the right character. That's something that we're very, very careful with because they have to contribute to the culture of the club. And I think we've done a good job this season, and now it's about how do we bring everything together and obviously get that translated into performances on the field.
I want to ask Lee, and I noticed this on the women's side, but also on the men's side more. recruiting from, outside of Alberta, like there's quite a few players, I guess, historically that you've been able to recruit outside Alberta. Do you guys have like a scouting network? Like how do you really, as it's Sam Dilts, for example, and some of these other guys, they're playing, U Sports far away from here. So what's the process there?
Well, I don't know if we can reveal all the secrets.
Well, okay, that's fair.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I think everyone will tell you who's in the soccer world. It's a small world. It's relatively straightforward, to be honest, to build connections in certain parts of Canada. As a youth program, we travel a lot. So we do work with coaches who might coach at the youth level, but they are also part of this pro-am system across the country. And of course, we have a really successful track record of sending our youth players to university programs. So as that starts to happen, we build relationships with coaches that maybe manage university programs. We're not in the fortunate position as some of the clubs are that, they have university coaching staff essentially. And so they have a player pool to a certain extent already predetermined and available to them. We build our relationships through the quality of our younger players going off into these different environments. Somebody like Sam that you're referencing is obviously at St. FX, and Graham Kennedy used to be the technical director here at Foothills. That was a long time ago, but obviously we still have a strong connection with Graham, and that's probably one of the more natural sort of networks, if you like, that we have. But again, soccer is a small world, and so it's just about really just taking some time and putting in that effort to research players and people, and then find those players that you believe can carry out the sort of system that you want to input for games.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the impact of having the players who previously played for the UWS team, having them on the League One roster this spring and summer. Players like the Schneider sisters, Izzy Monk, I think, is a key example. What impact have they had on bolstering Foothills' League One team?
Yeah, I think with players like Izzy, Jaden Berg, Rachel Barlow, Rebecca Grisdale, those types of players, they've come through the Foothills program, so they've come through the youth piece and been a part of the pro-am system. Obviously, we played at the UWS level, and those players have all had success there, so they know what it sort of takes to compete at that level, if you like, and with a few of those players, they're in the NCAA world, and so that is, generally speaking, tends to be super competitive, and they're ready to go when they come back in the summer months. When you're talking about players like Myla did play for Foothills in our youth program with our 2002 girls. Myla hasn't played for Foothills before, so when we're, I guess, attracting players to the club, it's really about the environment we create. We're very proud of that. We're very conscious of that. We want it to be a great experience for the players. We want to push them. We want them to get to the next level. And so when you bring in players that, again, are at that maybe NCAA type level and top U Sports players, it almost automatically creates that feel. And that's what I think then attracts those players to the program. And then from there, it's on us to then deliver a quality program, day in, day out. And we treat them as professionally as we can. They take part in, obviously, a full-time training program, which includes sports science and video analysis, and all of that is in-house. So once they get here, it's everything in one place as such, like you would experience at a professional team.
I wanted to ask Lee about Foothills' connections with the Wild. Like, I would think that it would be kind of nice if you were a player, like playing for Foothills, having the Wild coaches around your training, they're around, you get to see the Wild players train. I'm guessing that that's kind of a nice symbiotic relationship there, and it probably doesn't hurt to, players wanting to train kind of in their general presence. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think you could say that. I would say that a focus of our program is to get players out of our program and into that world. And you'll see on the roster now, I think it's 7 players that are on the Wild roster that have actually played for our Foothills program at some point in the past. There are, I think it's 14 players across the league in the Northern Super League that have played within the Foothills program. And we want that to continue. So, yeah, we're very much focused on creating opportunities for female players. And so we'll continue to push, those players that we feel, I guess, have the potential to succeed at the next level. And I think we have a bit of a responsibility to, I guess, be a pain or an annoyance to a certain extent to coaches at that next level to say, look, you need to come and look at this player and or find other ways to get them in front of them. So, yeah, we want to make sure that we continue to support the Wild as much as we can and to see individuals move on and go into that professional world now it's here.
Lee, we want to ask you about the upcoming match against Blizzard on Friday. I think that's one that a lot of fans are really excited about. Lots of history between your two teams, those two clubs. Can you give me your thoughts on that match?
Well, we know it's going to be a tough game first and foremost. They got the win in the first game, and we could have been better on the night, and we missed some chances. But obviously, Blizzards put the ball in the net, and we didn't. So we'd like to get that one back, to be honest. So what can you sort of expect? I think two teams that have really good quality players. Blizzards are always very well coached, very well organized. They have good team cohesion, and I think that comes from the university sort of side of things that a lot of the players are familiar with each other. I think we're in a really good place. We've again developed well over the last few weeks. We're looking forward to the game. We're at home, and we will go after the game. We want to win this game, so we will put everything into it, and it should be a very, very exciting game on Friday night.
What would you consider a successful season for in League One this year for the team?
We have 3 goals that we set a long time ago, and one is to be, and this isn't just about this season. I think this would be true for every season now. We want to be a hub for those players that are either from Alberta or return to Alberta from their university programs, and they want to be in an environment that is as a professional environment. So we want to be a hub for those players. A second one would be we want to be the team or the club that send the most players into the professional environments every year. So that's certainly something that we're focused on. And the third one is we want to win. We haven't won League One to this date. We've put ourselves in a good position in terms of at the start of the season, although, again, we have a tough game Friday night. We have a really tough June. We haven't faced St. Albert yet, who are in a good position themselves, and again, have a lot of very talented players. So those would be the 3 things. And again, I don't think it's really focused on one particular season. It's just the vision, if you like, of the program, and we'll keep going every year to try and achieve those pieces. And so hopefully we can bring some success in that regard. And certainly, like I say, hit 1, 2, or all 3 of those objectives this summer. That would be fantastic.
Provincial's so close to home is another carrot at the end of the stick, hey?
Yeah. We know when it is and where it is, but we tend to look at the next game as such. So, we know that tomorrow night is the next step, if you like, and it's a tough game for us. So we got to be ready for tomorrow.
Thanks as always, Lee, for talking to us, and best of luck tomorrow and with the rest of the campaign. We'll be paying close attention.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks to Lee Tucker for joining us. Yeah, it should be a big match. I think anyone has a chance to check that one out. That one's at Macron on Friday evening. So definitely should be a good matchup.
Absolutely. And then there's 3 other matchups taking place on Friday, 2 of which are in Calgary and area, and then 1 up in Edmonton. So over at Weber, Rangers will be hosting BTB. And then at Broadview, Callies will be hosting St. Albert. And then up in Edmonton, we have Edmonton Scottish playing Cavalry U21 as well. On the women's side, Scottish will be playing the Wild U21 team.
Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can have this podcast downloaded to your device as soon as it becomes available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other platforms. Check out our website at yycsoccer.com, where you can look through our episode archive and find other options to listen, including our YouTube channel. We also have links there so you can buy Scott's book about pro soccer history in Calgary. You can leave us a question or comment in the Contact Us section of our website. You can also interact with us on social media, such as Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, where our name is YYC Soccer 403. Thanks for listening.